one of my favorite videos. This is the UFC 311 full fight preview here on Couch Potato Diary. Full main card preview, I will say. We did say the other day that there were a couple of fighters to watch on the undercard. So do want to give them their flowers here before we get rolling with our main card preview. Again, give me your thoughts in the chat. Let me know what you guys think of all of this. But first one that we want to look at is in the heavyweight division. Jailton Almeida taking on Sergey Spivak. These are, like I said before, a couple of fighters who really need things to kind of go their way. You have Almeida, who is 33 years old. He's going to be entering the octagon tomorrow with a record of 21-3. His most recent loss came against Curtis Blades back at UFC 299. He recovered from that with a first-round submission victory over Alexander Romanov back in Jersey in June of 2024. He is taking on Sergey Spivak, out of 29 years old, out of Moldova. The Polar Bear is 17-4 in his career, coming off of a submission win over Marcin Tybura back at the UFC on ESPN. That fight was the main event there. Not the most inspiring choice for main event. That was one where we talked about it. I think it was Brett Okamoto who said on Twitter, some fight cards have main events and other fight cards just have fights that go on last. And that was certainly that for Spivak. But these are two guys who record-wise, this should be a big fight. 21-3 for Almeida. Spivak 17-4 going into this one. They've both had losses to high-level guys. Almeida just the one, I guess, to Curtis Blades. Spivak with the loss to Cyril Gahn and Tom Aspinall and Marcin Tybura. Walt Harris, the other one, rounding out the loss column there for Spivak. But neither guy has been all that like, okay, here is this dude. Almeida maybe with that type of a performance, submitting Romanov back in June, like I said, at UFC 302. I think he gets the win here. Spivak just kind of feels like one from a generation gone by, so to speak. So I feel like this is a Jailton Almeida victory in this particular bout. Also, for our fighters to watch here, we have Aylin Perez having won 6 of her last 7, taking on Carol Rosa in the early prelims, which, like, at this point, there isn't a whole lot different there. For people in the States, one's on FX, one's on Disney, one's on ESPN Plus, so at this point, it's not like it used to be where the fights were on Facebook and then they weren't and stuff like that. But anyway, for Aylin Perez, she is 30 years old, out of Argentina. She comes in with a record of 11-2, taking on Carol Rosa out of Brazil, who steps into the cage with a record of 18-6. She has alternated win-loss for a while. But the loss is coming against some pretty good competition in Sarah McMahon, Norma Dumont, and Irene Aldana, while Perez has not lost since her UFC debut back in 2022. Since then, 3 decision wins and then a submission victory to round out her 2024 calendar. I think that this is an exciting prospect, and I feel like she is maybe getting a little bit of not quite a fair shake when it comes to the odds. And again, I say prospect, 30 years old. It is time to kind of get this thing going. This will be, I think, probably the biggest step up in competition for her. Carol Rosa, like we said, has lost a few, but it's to people who are kind of upper echelon-ish. Like, not the tippity top like we see sometimes with these, but a step above, for sure. Anytime she takes a step up in class, she comes up a little bit short. The question is Aylin Perez at that level? I don't necessarily think she is, but I do think that she is capable of pulling off an upset here. So that's one that we might do a bit of a sprinkle on when it comes to a bit of an underdog pick. But I do think that she has a very good opportunity here to pull off a bit of an upset. And then we get to Peyton Talbot, another fighter to watch. He will be on the main event for the prelims, I guess you could say, as the kid out of Reno, Nevada, will be taking on Hani Barcelos, who is 37 years old, out of Brazil. It has not gone well for Barcelos lately. Is coming off of a win in his last bout back in February, but was winless in 2023 and overall has lost 4 of his last 6. Peyton Talbot, losses, Never heard of him. 9-0 in his professional career. Now, he has fought exactly one person with a Wikipedia page. That was Cameron Simon back at UFC on ESPN in March of 2023. But a very interesting prospect here. Back-to-back knockout wins following a submission win. So 3-0 in the UFC, 3 finishes. The most recent one going in just 19 seconds. I think last I saw it was basically like -1 or 1100 or something like that. So people figuring that this is going to be another kind of run-through fight. I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case. I think he wins, but I think Barcelos keeps this one a little bit closer than a 19-second blow-through. But an interesting test for Peyton Talbot anyway, as they roll through on the prelims. In the chat, Deeds. So Jays get straw and international money. Sasaki, maybe? Toxic beat me to that. Yes, we were kind of wondering that what might be the breaking news stream that we do here this week, but not the case so far anyway. We'll keep an eye on the baseball news as we roll on. But now it is time to run through the main card as it is now. Recording this at 12:24 p.m. Mountain Time on Friday, January the 17th. We start in the middleweight division as it is Kevin Holland against Reinier de Ridder. Kevin Holland, 32 years old, out of Riverside, California. It's a hard 32, though, in the fight game. He has 39 bouts on the resume, 26 wins, 12 losses, 22 of the wins have been finishes. Also has won no contest, coming off of a knockout loss back at UFC 307 against Roman Dolidze. It's been a bit of a tough go here for Kevin Holland. He's lost 3 of his last 4, with losses to Jack Della Maddalena, Michael Page, and Roman Dolidze. While de Ridder is 34 years old, out of the Netherlands, coming into this one with an 18-2 record. He's won back-to-back fights, with the most recent one coming in November against Gerald Meerschaert. This is, I think, the biggest step up in competition for him. It was his UFC debut in his last one, coming from ONE and UAE Warriors. So, an interesting prospect here, the former middleweight champion, former light heavyweight champion in ONE, taking on Kevin Holland, who has been very good at introducing fighters to the ultimate proving ground in the UFC with the fight against Michael Venom Page back at UFC 299. I just feel like it started to fall off a little bit too much for Kevin Holland. He is still a dangerous fighter and still someone who you hate to put gatekeeper on a guy, but at 32 years old, he is kind of the how good are you really test. If you can beat him, then you are deserving of fighters in and around the top 15, and if not, then there is some work to do. I think de Ridder is worthy of a top 15 part. He is a black belt in judo. He has a black belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. If he can take this one down, I think he's going to have a very good opportunity against Kevin Holland, who's only been submitted 3 times in his career. The last one coming against Khamzat Chimaev back at UFC 279 in 2022 when all of that madness went down. Before that, you have to go all the way back to a Brendan Allen fight in 2019. So not the easiest guy to stop, but I think de Ridder, he has the tool set to go out and really get that job done. We go into the light heavyweight division now as Jiri Prochazka takes on Jamahal Hill in a very intriguing fight in the light heavyweight division. Prochazka, 32 years old, out of Czechoslovakia, training at Extreme Couture. He is 35-1 in his UFC career. 30 wins, 5 losses, and 1 draw. 26 wins by knockout, another 3 by submission, with 3 of his 5 losses coming by way of knockout. One of those is against Alex Pereira, as he lost to the reigning and defending UFC light heavyweight champion the last time he stepped into the octagon back at UFC 303, and his last 2 losses have come to Alex Pereira, his only 2 losses in the UFC. Taking on Jamahal Hill, who is 33 years old, born in Chicago. He stands 6'4", training at Black Lion Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, 12-2 with 1 no contest in his career, 7 wins by way of knockout. Both losses he has been knocked out in, including a fight against Alex Pereira back at UFC 300. The former light heavyweight champion had to vacate his title due to an Achilles injury. He then tried to fight, lost, ending a 4-fight winning streak. The Dana White Contender Series alumni has been in the pro ranks since 2017. I feel like Jamahal Hill is kind of built perfectly to beat Jiri Prochazka. A big part of Prochazka's game is he can withstand a lot of pressure, he can withstand a lot of punishment, and then he can come out and really put it on you. The thing is, though, Jamahal Hill dishes out an absurd amount of punishment and an absurd amount of damage, and the pace that I think he is going to be able to put on is going to probably be, I think, a bit too much for Prochazka to handle. The one thing about Prochazka is that it is a unique style, we will say. And so that gives him a bit of an opportunity against 33-year-old Jamahal Hill, who, very good fighter. Again, former champion, has seen a lot, but this is still just his, 16th professional fight? And so when you're dealing with someone who's a little unorthodox, that can maybe throw you off a little bit. So Prochazka has to hope that he can kind of weird his way to a win. But I just feel like the power of Hill is going to be able to get him across the finish line and get him a victory in this fight. I think he probably stops this one. Prochazka can take a ton of damage, so I don't know if I would invest in that necessarily, but I do think that Hill has the opportunity to put just too much damage on Prochazka for him to come back from. Also, this is just a 3-round fight, so that kind of rope-a-dope technique, you can do that for 1 round and then you have to win the next 2. I just don't think it works in a 3-round fight coming from Prochazka, who's a little bit more accustomed to the championship rounds and things of that nature. So we will see what comes from that particular bout. But I do think Jamahal Hill, the power that he has, he's also patient. Like when he smells blood, it's go time. But he is quite patient out there as a fighter, and so I think that is going to lead him into a couple of very big opportunities and give him a chance to not fall into the trap that Prochazka has dragged a few fighters into before. So I think Jamahal Hill ends up getting the win in that fight. We now go to the co-main event of the evening. It is for the Bantamweight Championship of the World, as Merab Dvalishvili takes on Umar Nurmagomedov. Dvalishvili is 34 years old, standing at 5'6", born in Georgia, not the state. He trains at Serra-Longo Fight Team, 18-4 for the career, with 3 wins by knockout, 1 by submission. He has 1 submission loss on his resume. His most recent bout got him a whole lot of gold, as he beat Sean O'Malley at UFC 306 to win the Bantamweight Championship and continue on an 11-fight win streak. 10 of those are by decision, but along with O'Malley, he has beat a who's who in this division. Henry Cejudo, Piotr Jan, Jose Aldo, Marlon Moraes, Cody Stamann, and John Dodson. He's been in the UFC since 2017, where he lost his first 2 fights, and he's now won 11 in a row. He has been a pro since 2014, and I always love these stories. He started his career 1-2. He's now 18-4. Don't give up, kids. Excellent work there from Merab. He is taking on Umar Nurmagomedov, who comes into this one as a favorite, as the challenger, because he has yet to taste defeat in his 29 years on this planet, and a few of those spent as a professional, fighting since 2016. We are now in 2025. He is 18-0. 2 wins by knockout, 7 of those coming by way of submission. His last 2 wins have been by decision, most recently a victory over Corey Sandhagen. He does not necessarily have the resume of someone who you would think would be a challenger for a championship in the Ultimate Fighting Championship. But he has been so dominant and so controlling in those wins that he has the skill set that has led a lot of people to believe that he is going to give Merab problems here on Saturday night. I think this is a really intriguing fight. I think it is a little disrespectful to Merab that he is such a clear underdog in this bout. I think that they both kind of cancel off a lot of what they can do. I do think that the wrestling for Merab might actually be a little bit better than Umar's is, and I think that he's going to be able to control a lot of this. The stand-up, I think Umar has the advantage there, but we will see. I think it's going to be a very, very interesting chess match, and I just think, yes, Umar has the 5-round experience, but he doesn't have it against Merab here. And I think Merab, having been through this, having fought all of those fighters, having all of that experience, I do think Umar holds a championship at some point, but I don't think it is going to be this weekend. I think Merab pulls off the upset, and I think that he is going to be able to hold on to his championship. So I think Merab outpoints Umar and picks up the victory here this weekend, holding on to the Bantamweight title. And now we get to the fight that we didn't think we'd have to break down. It is the UFC 311 main event that changed less than a day, or just over 24 hours, I guess, before the fight would actually step into the cage, as Islam Makhachev goes up against Renato Moicano for the lightweight title. Makhachev is 33 years old, 5'10", with a 70-inch reach, born in Russia. He now trains at AKA. 26-1, 5 wins by knockout, 12 wins by submission, his only loss coming by way of knockout. His most recent win was a submission victory over Dustin Poirier at UFC 302, his third UFC lightweight championship defense. He's on a 14-fight winning streak with 9 finishes in that time. Just 1 decision since 2019. 15-1 in the Ultimate Fighting Championship. He's a pro since 2010. Stepping into this bout where Tsarukyan was supposed to be is Renato Moicano, 35 years old, born in Brasilia, Brazil. He trains at American Top Team, 25-1, 2 wins by knockout, 10 wins by submission, 8 decision wins on the resume. Then 3 losses by knockout, another 1 by submission. His most recent bout might be his best, a dominant performance over Benoit Saint-Denis at UFC Fight Night back in September. It is back-to-back wins, and as I said before, for the first time in his career, 2 knockout wins for him. He's won 6 of his last 7. He's been in the UFC since 2014 and is 12-5 in the octagon. He is a former interim featherweight champion in Jungle Fight. I think this is a very intriguing fight. Moicano comes into this one, like I said, he's won a couple fights in a row. He's won 6 of his last 7, and it just seemed like every time he was getting close to that opportunity, something would get in his way. A lot of times it was him. And at 35, it felt like this was a big weekend for him going up against Beneil Dariush, who really needed this fight. Moicano, a win there, maybe you're a win away, and maybe in Q4 of 2025, you get a title opportunity, or early in 2026. Instead now, he is stepping in for an injured Arman Tsarukyan. So, how do these guys actually match up? I think one of the interesting things to look at in a Makhachev-Tsarukyan fight is the takedown defense for Arman. If he could have kept this fight standing, then I think that his stand-up would have been better than Islam's, and that would have given him a bit of an edge. I think Moicano is a better stand-up fighter than Tsarukyan is. I don't think he has the power that would have let him put this one away. And so, like, again, there's that puncher's chance, but the hope of a flash one-shot, shock-the-world knockout, I don't think is there as much for a Moicano as it is for a Tsarukyan. And so now it gets to, can he keep the fight standing? Because I still think, even without the one-punch knockout power, Moicano has the edge over Islam when it is in the stand-up. I do think that he has that advantage. It comes down to the takedown defense. I don't think Moicano, he is just not physically, I understand they're the same weight. Physically, they don't look the same, right? And so I don't think that he will be physically strong enough to stop the takedowns of Islam Makhachev. If he is able to keep this fight standing, he has a very real chance of pulling off another huge upset in the Ultimate Fighting Championship. I just don't know if he's going to be able to do it. Now, I will say, if this fight goes to the ground, this isn't 2005 anymore, where it's, oh, you just don't want to deal with this guy on the ground at all. Like, his work off of his back, very dangerous. Don't even want to go into that world. That's not this anymore. Guys have gotten so good in top control that there's like 2 or 3 guys in the world that you don't want to deal with off their back, and Moicano just isn't one of those guys. I will say, though, he is a very good grappler. The speed and technique that he was able to show in the grappling department against Benoit Saint-Denis was devastating. And just transitioning from taking the back, taking them out, moving into this position, all while landing just violent ground and pound. So that this is not going to be someone who is just going to lay there and allow Islam Makhachev to bludgeon them in the middle of the Intuit Dome in Los Angeles, California. This is going to be someone who is going to be squirmy and is going to be making Makhachev work. So I think that is going to create a lot of interesting scramble situations. He has to basically make this fight seem crazy if he is going to win this fight. He has to be, the second he gets taken down, it's movement, and it's going, and it's whatever. He cannot just lay there and hope that he can, maybe slide an underhook or something like that. It has to be scrambles, and it has to be a lot of chaos to try to get it back to the feet. And when it's on the feet, it has to be go time. I thought he set up his takedowns very effectively in the Benoit Saint-Denis fight. Had a nice little inside leg kick, a jab, and then a takedown. So you're just messing with the eye level, right? It's like, we'll be talking about baseball here in a second, but it is when you mess with the eye level of a hitter, where you go curveball low and away, and then try to get them chasing with the high heat. It's the same thing, where you get them thinking low, then you get them thinking high, and then it's back low again with the takedown. He was very good at that, and from there, he was able to really put a hurt on Benoit Saint Denis. I wouldn't be surprised if Moicano tries to go for a takedown at some point and initiate that sort of a situation there. It might be a little bit risky because if you don't get it, it's on the fence. Makhachev can turn him, and then it's ba-boom, and then you're probably spending a full round on your ass. But I do think that it would be something that Makhachev would not be necessarily anticipating, and it could be something to kind of catch him off guard. But I do think the longer this fight stays standing, the better it is for Moicano. I just think he might try to mess with him a little bit in that way. Overall, I do think Makhachev gets the job done. I do think it will be a finish. I don't think the judges will be required for this one. So I have Islam Makhachev winning by some form of finish inside the distance. I had it lined up for it, and we were going to do a today's ticket on this one, but we will see as the line's adjusting now on the fly for this bout.